Good afternoon. My name is Kayla Lisa, and I am the orchestra director at Cypress Lake High School Center for the Arts. This is our Camerata Orchestra. They're our advanced group, and we have a whole selection of numbers for you today, the first being two Hungarian folk tunes by Béla Bartók. Our second selection tonight is Shepherd's Hay by Percy Granger. Thank you. Our next piece is going to be Over the Rainbow. Thank you. Our next selection is a piece entitled The Candyman, and it is heard on the original Willy Wonka and the Chocolate, or Charlie and the Chocolate, it's one of those two. You know what I mean.
Ladies and gentlemen, we are ready to begin this evening's board meeting. The school board meeting of October 20th, 2015 is now called to order. The time is 6 p.m. At this time, we request that all electronic devices be turned off or put in the silent mode. Also, we ask that you please refrain from using photography except during the special presentations portion of the meeting. We would like to take this opportunity to remind members of the audience of the district's mission, which is to ensure that each student reaches his or her highest personal potential and the district's vision to be a world-class school system. Prior to the start of this evening's board meeting, we have been enjoying music from members of the Camerata Orchestra, which is the advanced group at Cypress Lake High School Center for the Arts, under the direction of orchestra director Kayla Lisa. Last year, this orchestra represented the school district by performing at both district and state-level musical performance assessments. If you would like to hear them again, they will be performing along with the other two orchestras at Cypress in a fall haunted concert on October 30th, 7 p.m., Cypress Lake High School Auditorium. The concert is open to the public, and tickets are $5. Costumes are encouraged. Does that mean the orchestra as well? Oh boy. At this time, the orchestra will perform one more song. Start to our evening, and I heard some humming along there at the end, so thank you. And at this moment, we're going to take a brief pause so that they can clear the performance area. Okay, we will continue. This evening's agenda includes the invocation, the Pledge of Allegiance, one special presentation to the board, public comment, consent action items, which include 3 items under resolutions, 8 items under executive services, 4 items under business and finance, 4 items under operations, 2 items under teaching and learning, 10 superintendent's recommendations, one of which is good cause. Dr. Adkins, please provide an explanation for this item.
Of course, board members, thank you for the opportunity to provide this explanation. We have a situation where we decided to award a bid for an RFP for fresh produce. Upon awarding that bid to an alternative vendor, the current vendor decided to cease providing service, and therefore I had to bring this forth good cause so that we continue putting fresh foods on the plates of our students. So,
thank you, Dr. Atkins. I find there is good cause to add this item to the agenda. There are also 6 items for public hearing and 4 items under other business. Board members, is there a motion to adopt the agenda?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Ms. La Riviere. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Ms. Fisher will deliver the invocation, after which Mr. Teuber will lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. Please rise for the invocation.
Bow your heads. Lord, we thank you for this opportunity to meet here this evening and ask you to bless all here present. We ask that you bestow upon this board the wisdom, understanding, and desire to come together and make decisions that will benefit our students. Please guide the superintendent and his staff as they perform the daily tasks required to keep us informed and our students and staff inspired and safe. Please look upon us and grant all that we need to guide our students and to help them to develop their gifts and talents in these times of change and challenge. For this and your many blessings, we thank you. Amen.
Amen.
Ladies and gentlemen, tonight, presenting the national colors will be introduced by First Sergeant Joe Bear of Lehigh Senior High School JROTC program. First Sergeant Bear retired from the Army in 2007 after 20 years of active service in aviation maintenance. First Sergeant Bear's service included combat tours in Iraq as part of Operation Desert Storm and Operation Iraqi Freedom. His awards include the Bronze Star, the Meritorious Service Medal, and the Air Medal. First Sergeant Bear in 2007 graduated from Embry-Riddle Aeronautic University. Sergeant Bear is in his 6th year with the school district. Sergeant.
Thank you. The national colors for our Pledge of Allegiance tonight will be presented by Cadet Sergeant First Class Brittany Raymond. Brittany is a sophomore at Lehigh Senior High School and is currently an active member of the drill team, color guard, and academic team. She is enrolled in the Cambridge program and upon her graduation plans to attend Brown University and major in psychology. Please join me in the pledge. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you.
You may be seated. Tonight we have a special presentation to the board. Delta Dental, represented by Mr. Michael Manor and Mr. Dick Arachik, will be presenting.
Good evening. My name is Michael Manor. I'm an account executive for Delta Dental Insurance Company here in Lee County. I thank you for the opportunity to speak before the board regarding your dental RFP. During the evaluation process, there was some very important information that we feel wasn't given enough of consideration. With this being a 100% voluntary program, meaning that the entire cost is paid by your employees and their family members, we feel that we wanted to bring these items to your attention before you vote this evening. This information greatly affects the cost to your employees and their family members. One part of the recommendation before you is to eliminate the current low-cost DHMO plan. That plan currently has over 2,000 employees and their family members. It is being proposed that that plan be replaced with a PPO plan that will cost them 81% more than what they're currently paying. Delta Dental provided a plan with better benefits at a lower overall cost. That cost was $100,000 a year less than what is currently being proposed that you vote and approve today. That does not take into consideration the significant impact that it will have on the employees' out-of-pocket costs when they go and visit their dentist. We also propose to continue to offer a DHMO program that met the price point that is currently being paid. One of the most important aspects of a dental plan is dental access, the number of dentists that an insurance company has to offer. Delta Dental has significantly more dentists than any other company in the area. 85% of all your employees and their family members are currently seeking care from a Delta Dental dentist. More dentists means lower out-of-pocket cost. By comparison, MetLife has only 55%, with some of those being leased from another insurance company. That difference in terms of actual dollars is around $150,000 more per year that your employees will be paying out of pocket for their dental services. Overall cost was also an area that Delta Dental was better at. More importantly, we offered a better plan at a better price, and we also offered a longer-term commitment. Our proposal provided rate guarantees for a 4-year period. MetLife only provides a guarantee for the first 2 years with no kind of stability to reduce the cap in years 3 and 4. This RFP was sent to 22 insurance companies for bid. Only 3 chose to submit an offer to the Lee County School District. One of those who declined was your current carrier, Humana. Their stated reason was because their DHMO was going to be offered. As one of the largest school districts in the state, we feel that number reflects upon the process. Our objective today is simple. We are not asking that you override the committee's decision. They did the best they could with the information that they had before them, but there was major flaws in the process. What we ask today is you vote for choice. We were the school district. We have received many, many calls from employees of the school district asking for Delta Dental to come back. We ask that you allow your employees the chance to choose where they spend their money by awarding the contract to both MetLife and Delta Dental. Many of the larger school districts throughout the state are doing the same thing. By creating competition amongst carriers, you are helping ensure that your employees are always getting the best benefits at the best price. It is, after all, their money, and by allowing us to compete side by side with MetLife, You will empower your employees to choose which carrier best serves their dental needs. We are confident that when they compare the plans, the dentist in the network, and the prices proposed, that they will make the right decision for them and their families. I thank you for your time.
Thank you.
Thank you very much. Unfortunately, Dick couldn't be here due to budget concerns at our office. He was called in by our board, so I am here in his replacement. I am George Daddis. I'm the sales director for the state of Florida, and all I wanted to do is just reiterate some of the things that Mike went over. We offer better plans, which reduce employee out-of-pocket cost, better long-term guarantees, which stabilize premium increases, better network coverage, which gives better access and further reduces employee out-of-pocket cost, excuse me, and a willingness to continue the DHMO for those employees who wish to take it. And finally, employee choice, which is the biggest thing. Many of the large school districts in this state already allow for that, for choice. It's the employees' money. They pay 100% of the cost for this. Let them choose on that. And again, as Mike had mentioned, we still get calls from employees asking that Delta Dental come back. We hope you allow us and to do this and to look at changing that to allow both Met and Delta Dental to compete for your employee services. Thank you.
Thank you. The next item on the agenda is public comment. Mr. Martin, would you please address the agenda item of public comment?
School board policy provides the opportunity at this point in the meeting to address the board concerning any matter on this meeting's agenda or any other matter relevant to the operation of the school district. If you completed a card and submitted that to me before the meeting began, you'll be called in the order of the cards submitted. If you did not submit a card but still wish to address the school board this evening, the school board chair, Ms. Morgan, will give you an opportunity in a moment to express that desire. The rules concerning public comment are posted at the back of the room and are available on cards at those locations. The school board does not respond during public comment time to remarks made by speakers. At the conclusion of public comment time, the school board chair may address concerns raised by speakers or may assign responsibility to the superintendent to do so. Speakers are expected to act in a respectful manner, focusing on educational issues rather than individuals. Those who fail to do so after being warned by the meeting chair may be required to leave the meeting. Disruptive attacks on individuals are prohibited. Ms. Morgan, I have 14 cards this evening.
14?
Yes, ma'am.
Okay. Anybody on the right side of the auditorium who did not fill out a card, please state your name. Was there anybody else on the right side? No. Anybody on the left side? Anybody else? Okay.
First speaker this evening, Mr. Mark Castellano.
Dr. Atkins, School Board, Mr. Martin. I am Mark Castellano, President of the Teachers Association of Lee County and a long-standing member of the Insurance Task Force. I have served on the Insurance Task Force for approximately 12 years. I quickly learned that the real benefit of serving on this team is being educated about our insurance and insurance in general. One of the main education pieces is serving on RFP or request for proposal subcommittees. Over the years, I have served on at least a dozen RFP subcommittees. Some of them have been fairly simple, others are far more challenging. Tonight, you have 4 RFP recommendations and several other recommendations from the ITF before you. I urge you to respect the work of the ITF and those of us who have spent many hours, and I mean many, working on these benefit packages for our district employees. We would appreciate your support this evening. I will close with this. Over the past 5 years, I personally have served on 3 RFPs for dental insurance. I have helped develop the proposals we send out, I have read the submitted proposals. I have participated in the discussions, listened to the presentations, scored the proposals, and voted on the recommendations presented to the Insurance Task Force to, in turn, be presented to the board. Again, I ask that you respect the long hours and hard work that has gone into the superintendent's recommendations that are before you tonight, and I urge you to support them all. Thank you.
Speaker is Mr. William Tubb.
Good evening, Ms. Morgan, board members, Dr. Adkins, Mr. Martin. My name is Bill Tubb. About 6 weeks ago, I told you my faith in your ability to lead this district in a positive manner had been shaken. Your actions and decisions in the past couple of weeks have changed my position. I would like to both thank you and congratulate you on selecting Dr. Atkins as superintendent and giving the district the stability of knowing he has a 3-year contract and that his leadership will provide continuity and direction for our efforts. Again, thank you. Now it's up to Dr. Atkins, the administrators, staff, and educators of the School District of Lee County to live up to our strategic goals, to perform so that the 11,000 employees and 93,000 students of the district can realize that place where every learner can achieve his or her highest potential. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ms. Jamie Michael.
Good evening, Dr. Atkins, board members, and Mr. Martin. I'm Jamie Michael, longtime Insurance Task Force member, almost 20 years, and president of the Support Personnel Association. I appreciate all the time and energy that each and every one of you dedicates to this district. As well, the employees of this district work very hard for the students, the parents, and community members of Lee County and deserve the most cost-effective benefits possible. Previous school boards and union negotiations have set in process the Insurance Task Force as well as the Insurance Department to oversee insurance products in the Lee County School District. The ITF convenes monthly, consists of administrators, teachers, support staff, and a board member who reviews and discusses all of the insurance products within the district. The ITF analyzes the premiums against loss ratios for those products, disease management, where the claims are being spent, issues with individual companies that may occur. While other districts are grappling with hefty increases in insurance premiums, Lee County, for the second year in a row, will not have an increase in health insurance premium due to the oversight of the Insurance Task Force and the board. There are 8 different types of insurance going before the school board this evening. Some of the products are up for renewal, while others, the Insurance Task Force and/or school board, deemed it necessary that these products complete an RFP, request for proposal. The board and procurement department have established a fair, consistent, but very time-consuming process to be used on all RFPs due to the nature of a very competitive marketplace. This process uses a subcommittee of members of the ITF to include Talc and Spalk to review the documents sent to vendors, received from vendors, the rubrics used to evaluate the submission from vendors. The Lee County School District Procurement Department works very diligently along with the Insurance Department to make sure the entire process is fair and equitable to all vendors, along with Aon as our consultants and actuaries. During RFPs, the subcommittee for that particular product carefully review, ask questions of procurement, our consultants, and the vendors during the process. There are many, many hours spent by the subcommittee members comparing and working through the vast information provided by each vendor, tabbing books, asking questions, asking more questions, and finally rating each package according to their submission of information. This can be especially difficult when a vendor may not adhere to the RFP and you might be comparing apples to oranges. The Insurance Task Force adheres to the process set forth by the school board and the procurement department and the Insurance Task Force for thoughtful, careful review. The Insurance Task Force has reviewed all 8 products and unanimously voted to accept all of these companies. Therefore, I respectfully request that this board honor the work and diligence of the Insurance Task Force and approve all 8 insurance products this evening. Thank you.
Next speaker is Mr. Fred Forbes.
Would you state the name again, please, Mr. Martin?
Fred Forbes.
Forbes, thank you.
Board, staff. I'm here representing 3 communities primarily, which would be Hunters Ridge Country Club, Worthington Country Club, Quail West Country Club, which between those 3 gated communities represent nearly 4,000 residents. We were almost to a person excited about the school being located, the high school for Bonita Springs, at the corner of Bonita Grande and Bonita Beach Road. You could probably have counted on 2 hands those that were against that site. We found out, we believe we found out, that you're now not pursuing that site, but you're looking at putting the high school in front of Hunters Ridge Country Club, the sports complex to the left of our entrance road, which would be right up against I-75. We're really not happy about this because, number one, it's going to create a lot of sound. The marching band is going to be heard through those communities. There's going to be a lot of light, noise, a lot of traffic. Hunters Ridge itself will have damages, financial damages to us, which would amount to $1 million because we'll probably end up having to move our front gate to our back gate. And then furthermore, we would more than likely have to pursue with Worthington Country Club to get an additional synchronized traffic light at our main entrance, which would be moved to Bonita Grande. That would be about $1.2 million for us and about $200 or $300 for Worthington. Now, we believe that the site you had was far better because it was further removed from the interstate. I don't think you want a high school and a complex right up beside the main north and southbound exit ramps. I think that the light from the ball field during games will cause the traffic to slow down. It's just human nature to gawk and see what's going on where there's a lot of light. That could and more than likely would increase the accident rate. We know that the board is up against it on time. I know that you're up against it on budget. I believe that probably what happened on that other site, which we were familiar with when they were going to put a Walmart first and another big box store, it was made up of a number of landowners. It was not 60-some acres, all one owner. And probably what happened, the options for that property expired long ago.
Thank you, Mr. Forbes. Your time's up, sir. Thank you, sir. Your time is up. Speaker is Ms. Sandra Gibbons.
Right up here to the secretary, Ms. Johnson.
Yeah, there we go. Good evening, board members, Dr. Atkins and Mr. Martin. I too am from Bonita Springs and want to echo what Fred said about how thrilled we are to have the prospect of a high school in Bonita Springs. However, our concern is with the site. The rumored location, at least, with proximity to I-75, and the separation of the athletic fields from the main body of the school itself, in my opinion, would represent a serious safety hazard. So we would urge you to proceed with the original site as intended, and we are very much looking forward to having the new school in our community. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ms. Joan Downer.
Good evening, everyone. My name is Joan Downen. I was watching the board meeting this afternoon, the workshop meeting, And I found it ironic that as you were having a conversation about retention and recruitment of teachers, that it worked into a conversation of the difference between annual contract and the annual teachers and the contract teachers. And during that conversation, Mr. Toiber made comments that, to the effect of that he felt it was a win-win situation if we could move all teachers over to the annual pay scale, the performance pay scale, and he didn't want to resort to a stick, but would rather have a carrot to have all teachers move over. Now, what we found out at that meeting was that actually only 9 people, when given the incentive of $500, actually gave up their contract to move, and 6 of those retired immediately after. So only 3 made the conscious choice, and I bet they're retiring this year. So I would say no one made the conscious choice to give up their contract, and I can tell you right now, you will take mine out of my dead cold hand. Because as you're talking about retention and as you're talking about recruitment of teachers, when you talk annual contract, you're talking about pushing teachers away, not bringing them in. Okay? When you talk about treating teachers with professionalism and allowing them to have a say in their own profession, as you said, the flexibility and the ability to excel, that only comes with the protection of due process, like Ms. LaRiviere presented to you. That due process is invaluable. And with that, I'm going to spend the rest of my minutes with anecdotal evidence from both business and public school settings where that due process either was present and worked or was not and did not. For instance, if a teacher were to have a bad year, like I did a couple years ago, and I had a bad year, we all have them. We all stumble, we all fall. A couple of years ago, for the first time in my life, I got a needs improvement on my performance evaluation. I didn't get 1, I got 6. It was a brand new principal. We were both feeling each other out. I was not having a good year. My principal wasn't having a good year. It was just not a good year. Now, we had a long conversation and we worked it out. Would we have worked it out if I didn't have a contract? Obviously, I don't have 6 needs improvement on my current performance evaluation, but it started out there.
Thank you, Ms. Downing. Your time's up, ma'am.
No, I got more.
Ms. Meg Jacobson?
Good evening. My name is Meg Jacobson. I live in Medina Springs, so I'm not a teacher here to complain about whatever the situations are in that regard. I am here to talk about this public school, which we're so thrilled. I was here before when you made your mind up that we were going to get it. Thank you, thank you, thank you. Now we just need to get it where it belongs. So if this rumor, we don't know when they're rumors or whether they're truth, so we're here to say, some of us, that a school that's built right in between a community is of older people, by the way, not young families, it's just not the right place to go. And if you need to do eminent domain, as much as I actually hate that phrase personally, please do it. Go to the spot that you chose. I live about 2 miles from there, and there's another really great spot, which I won't go into right now because I don't have enough time, but assuming that your people have looked at everything available and have rejected the one that's on well, it doesn't matter, does it, where it's at, it's rejected. Please don't make it near Hunter's Ridge. I don't even live in Hunter's Ridge, but I have heard the noises that schools create. Why create enemies right next to the kids who are trying to get a good education? And please don't split a school into 2 pieces where the athletic facility is different than where the academic facility is. That just isn't going to be great for the kids. It's certainly not going to be good for the neighborhood. So if you are considering moving this next to the Burnwood Center, which is near our Publix, please don't. Please keep it where it is and build it as soon as you can. Thank you.
Next speaker is Ms. Donna Stone.
Thank you, School Board. My name is Donna Stone. I live at Worthington Country Club in Bonita Springs. I am in favor of a high school in Bonita Springs. I am against the proposed high school on the corner of Bonita Beach Road and Bonita Ground at the northwest corner. This is sensitive land that helps protect our water flow, our water retention, sheet flow, flooding, and most importantly, our aquifer. On this and surrounding land is our only filter marsh, and it also is one of the few retention pond reservoirs. It also controls the water going into the Imperial River and the Kiel Canal and the filtration of the water going to our beaches. Right now, the majority of the land going from Bonita Ground all the way over to East Terry Street and towards the street opposite the YMCA has standing water on it. On the opposite side of East Terry Street is the designated DRGR land. You have stated that the school board would never build on DRGR land. This may not be the official DRGR land, but it is a close second. This area is the only water source for the city of Bonita Springs. At our meetings going on now for the review of the Bonita Comp Plan, the number one issue was to protect our water. Residents have already voted not to add any car lanes to Bonita Ground or Terry Street. Additional car lanes will be needed for the school in that location. Who will pay for them when we do not want them? Also, I'm sure that you see in the newspapers and in the news on a daily basis the horror stories from California about the droughts, flooding, not the droughts, the droughts, the burning, the towns that have no water, or the polluted water. That's because they did not pay attention to their water. Florida is in a very sensitive area right now as far as protecting our water. You must pay attention to this. That original location that they all said that they were in favor of is a disaster area. Oil and gasoline runoffs from 100 cars or more for staff and students, delivery trucks, buses, asphalt runoff, and runoff from playing fields would contaminate the water in a very sensitive area. The noise from games, band practice, cars, buses will also exasperate the area that is under siege from increased traffic. That traffic will increase tenfold with the connection of Logan Boulevard to Bonita Beach Road in 3 years. This is the only exit that we have onto 75. The additional traffic to this corner will exacerbate an already burgeoning problem that will get worse with the addition of Logan Boulevard. For most of the same reasons, I am obviously against the new proposal in front of Hunter's Ridge near Worthington Country Club, Quail West. The noise, lights, traffic, congestion will be 10 times worse at this location. We all bought our homes at this end of Bonita Springs to enjoy a quiet lifestyle. Our property values, excuse me?
Time is up. Thank you. Next speaker is Mr. George Fox.
Thank you, Board, for hearing me. Last night I attended Ms. Morgan's town hall, and it was a good event. And at that, she stated that Dr. Atkins was trying to bring not just change, but transformational change to the board. I approve of that. That's a great idea. And that starts with this board changing its approach to its business. For its existence, it's sat up there and passed judgment on other people and other things. It's time for this board to get busy, transform what you do, and become proactive in raising money for this district. Districts were established in Florida to educate kids. It's not really the responsibility of the legislature, the governor, or the county commission, or anybody else to raise the money to educate their kids, although I do understand that states roll in the budgeting. These people want a school in Bonita Springs, and they deserve one. It's long overdue. But what you don't know is there is no money. When it's built, it will be put on a credit card. It won't be paid for. And the kids, the children, will end up paying for this school. This district needs to raise new money to build new schools. That is a basic finance fact that can't change by politics. If you want the right piece of property, you need to raise the money. If you had passed that, if you had gone for the half-cent sales tax the last few years, you'd have lots of money in the bank to build new buildings, and that includes buying the right piece of property at the right price at the right time. Now this board waits and waits and waits and waits and waits, and now where are you? You can't buy a piece of property, and when you do, you're going to pay top dollar, and it's not going to be in the right spot, and it all goes on a credit card, and the children pay for it. Transform what you do, board. Go for the half-cent sales tax. You must do it. There is no other way. Also, a 1.0 millage to pay off the existing $523 million in debt obligations this board has run up in the last decade, which, Mr. Toiber, I was very happy to see you take ownership of the decisions you made when you were on the board the previous time, but one of those was also manipulating the repayment schedule on those certificates of participation. It would be nice for you to take ownership of that, apologize to the taxpayers and to the children and everybody for wasting their money and not doing the right thing. Transform what you do. These people deserve a school, their kids deserve a school, and this board, it's this board's job to help Mr. Atkins do his job. And by going for that half-cent sales tax, it will be a fight. That's a fight you have to make. You can't sit back and play defense. You've got to go out there and be the entity that educates children. Stop begging the legislature, it's not coming. Stop listening to the county commissioners, it's not their job, and they're wrong to begin with. We saw the band here. That was the original school choice.
Thank you, Mr. Fox. Your time is up,
Thank
sir.
you.
Next speaker is Beverly Greenstein.
Thank you. Good evening. I am Beverly Greenstein and a resident in Worthington Country Club. I too am excited to know that there will be a high school in Bonita Springs. However, I do ask you to pay attention to the concerns of the residents east of I-75. This is primarily an area of senior citizens in gated communities. A high school belongs at the center of the population that will use the facilities and should function as a community center in off hours for clubs, art, music, and sports events. If the school is that far away from the population needing it, the bus rides will be longer and longer. The cost for increased bus transportation will quickly become a major budget issue. A high school in this particular area exposes all the existing residences to traffic congestion, noise pollution, and in addition, light pollution from the athletic fields. Surely this will not have a positive effect on the properties therein. With academic and athletic facilities separated by a road, the safety of the students rushing back and forth becomes a serious issue. Further, these two tracts of land are small. The Chamber of Commerce and City Council are always looking to bring major industries such as Hertz to our area. Where is the room for expansion on these buildings? Will we soon find ourselves with high-rises? Where will there be parking for the buses, for the students, for the teachers? Will they usurp the parking at public shopping center? I have attended the workshops for a comprehensive plan for downtown Bonita Springs. Without fail, the residents are looking for community centers, schools, theaters, to be at the center of town, allowing for the maximum use while maintaining the small town feel of our communities. I respectfully ask that you take these issues seriously. We are parents and grandparents who have done this before and recognize the pitfalls of this location. Thank you for listening.
Speaker is Mr. Tom Remus.
Good evening, members of the board, Dr. Adkins. My name is Tom Remus, and I'm with MetLife. And I would like to speak in reference to the consideration of the approval of MetLife as a dental and disability provider for the employees of Lee County Schools. On behalf of MetLife, we'd like to thank the superintendent for the recommendations, and especially thank the insurance evaluation committees. Each of the committees did an extremely thorough job throughout the evaluation process. It was very clear throughout the arduous process that they had the best interests of the district's employees in mind. MetLife is committed to the public sector and school districts in particular. As a benefits provider, a carrier must be very flexible and very familiar with the nuances that a school district's employees provide. I personally work with many districts in the area, including Pinellas County Schools, Collier, Hillsborough, Osceola, Manatee, just to name a few. And our goal is always to become ingrained in the culture of each district's employees and get to know them, and essentially become an extension of the benefits team. In closing, MetLife is honored to be considered tonight, and we thank you for your time.
Speaker is Mr. Marvin Getz.
Members of the board, Dr. Atkins, I'm here tonight to speak for Lee County Association of Professional Substitute Teachers. First of all, you notice in our name, Lee County Association of Professional Substitute Teachers, we adopted that name back in 1999. So we've been using that same name, and we've included professionalism. First of all, for the board's information, I would like to make you aware that we meet once a month with our school administrator, and that's Dr. Angela Pruitt, and we have a wonderful association in our dealership. I wanted to speak to you because this afternoon a presentation was given to you for substitute teachers. As an association, a Lee County Association of Substitute Teachers is not a union. We do not bargain. We have no contractual arrangements. We depend on you, the members of the board and the administration, to see fit that substitute teachers are treated fairly, honestly, and with equality. You asked the question, why then is there a shortage of substitutes? Let me stress a couple of points. There is a shortage of substitutes because there is no career ladder. A substitute, whether they started with me back in the 90s, gets the same salary almost that they do today. So there's been no incentive. The last raise we had was in the year 2008. It's no longer suitable in this growing economy. We have no opportunity for professional growth. In the past, the association has proposed many things in our monthly consulting meetings, many going back to the years when Dr. Atkins headed this meetings with me on the monthly meetings. It appears we talk and we talk and we talk and we don't get action from the administration, from the Board of Education. It's time now to apply action. There are a lot of incentives that we've discussed over the years. Many of them are the same ones we started with back in the 1990s, interesting enough. They are such things as extra pay for half a day for a substitute who works a half a day. The morning AM person comes in, but if you're an afternoon person, you normally pick the students up right up from lunch. You don't have the time to prepare and get ready.
Thank you, Mr. Getz. Your time's up, sir.
Okay.
Next speaker is Mr. Dan Wagner.
Board, it's nice to be here. I too am from Bonita Springs. I live in 21 years in Worthington Country Club, and we have 3 great country clubs put together there at one place, and we're very, very, very concerned about that close area to have. It's got a lot of problems. A lot of, you could never develop extremely dangerous, it could develop extremely dangerous traffic problems in the following areas. All sections and directions of the I-75 and Bonita Beach Road entry and egress is one. Another one is both east and westbound Bonita Beach Road in that same area. Another one is an intersection of Bonita Grand Road and Bonita Beach Road. Another one is the intersection of Bonita Grand and Terry Street. The gated communities of Hunter Ridge, Quail West, and Worthington Country Club will be very negatively impacted from noise, lighting, traffic issues, and could possibly lose property values should the school be put there. Thus, these communities will not be good citizens and neighbors and friendly to this community, to this school. The student parking area would probably not be large enough because we understand the acreage isn't what it really ought to be. And so probably the commercial area there that has parking will be used by the students and so forth, and the shopping, the shopping community there will be very abused. There is also the possibility that the athletic facilities will be built on the north side, Bonita Beach Road. We understand, we don't know for sure, and if this would be very dangerous and a difficult transition back and forth for your students. And any and all ways the traffic for students will be both difficult and dangerous. Please understand that we are not anti-high school. Right across the street we thought was a wonderful potential situation. Why it's shifted to this small, probably in too small an area, we're not sure. We hear rumors, but it would be a very big mistake, safety-wise, if the school was built there. Thank you for your time.
Next speaker is Ms. Charla Fox.
Board, thank you for this opportunity. Dr. Atkins, Mr. Martin. I am Charla Fox. I am a product of this school system, and I'm also a teacher in the school system. First, I wanted to say thank you for putting forward for the graduations this year and looking at that schedule and making sure that there is a fairness in how that schedule works out and how it changes year after year. Next, I also wanted to address the concern about the professional and annual contract. I don't like to be reactionary, but I felt a driving need to address this to you at this point because of having heard it brought up this afternoon. I am fortunate to be on a professional contract. I feel comfortable being able to get up and say what needs to be said. There are oftentimes teachers that are newer to the system on annual contract do not have that same feeling of freedom. And I understand that. I have been in business before, previous to coming into education, and the knowledge that you may be released at any point in time without due process at the end of a year is something that engenders a fear in you and a feeling that I may not speak my mind, even in a professional way. I have, and I know others of us that have professional contracts, have others come to us and say, this is happening and this is happening, and I'd love to say something about this, but I worry and I don't dare. I respond back, luckily I'm of an age that I don't worry so much about it. And it is a matter of being able to speak your mind is one of those things we as professionals feel is an integral part of being an educator. And that is something that when the legislature made this change and made this adjustment, created a situation where we felt that all of a sudden we are no longer looked upon as professionals. And that is something that is also creating a divisiveness and creating problems with people wanting to come and stay in our profession. And it's something that needs to be recognized, and it's something that truly needs to be understood. I know that changing all of us to that would be outstanding, and if you never had a bad year or a bad relationship.
Thank you, Ms. Fox. Your time's up.
Thank you.
Those are all the cards, Ms. Morgan.
Kevin Riegel.
Hello. Good evening, board members, Dr. Adkins and Mr. Martin. First of all, I wanted to congratulate Dr. Adkins on being named superintendent and on your 3-year contract. Congratulations, sir. And another thing I wanted to say was I'm very happy to see the focus with the transportation and the buses. I think that was needed. It's going to help the community. Our bus fleet was old and getting older by the day. And the delivery times, as you know, were tight and was a big concern. So the discussion and the action that's being put forth out there was definitely needed. So thank you again. I wanted to welcome our friends from Estero and from Bonita. I work down there and I live in the Cape, so I definitely hear your concerns. One thing is I have Ida Baker and Oasis high schools in my backyard pretty much. And the one thing I would say as I'm listening to both sets of conversations is that was a concern, I'm sure, when Oasis came. And you know, when I was looking for my house too, how this would work. And I know that if you look at any accidents that have taken place, the ones in the community, they're some of the lowest in the county because they take extra attention to make sure that the steps are rectified. Now that doesn't mean it's not a concern because this is going to be change for everybody. But I know that if you look at how the buses run in and out of the Oasis neighborhood and Ida Baker, it's done very professionally and very safely. And that's a big kudos to the district for realizing that. Lastly, I wanted to talk about, if I could, the inclusion discussion. You know, as a special ed teacher and a general ed teacher for the last 2 decades, you know, there's a concern amongst many groups as to what is happening with inclusion. And we know the mandates that are being put on the school district. We know that they would like all general ed teachers to get special ed training. The only problem is it's just that, it's just special ed training. It's not special ed service time. It's like basically getting your CPR training in about 5 minutes when you've never taken CPR before. And that's the problem. So, you know, one thing is if you have any committees or you need people for inclusion, I would love to volunteer because I, you know, could lend some opinions from a differing state and then from seeing it down here, so I would be more than happy to. Again, thank you for your time.
Tara Jenner.
I briefly spoke at the end of the last meeting with Dr. Atkins about a concern that I had with the IB and AP students and dual enrollment students. I haven't had time to schedule a meeting with Dr. Atkins. However, since that time, I have done some research, and I've discovered that at Fort Myers High, as an example, there is a 56% pass rate for AP testing, and there's only a 26.3% graduating with an IB program. Contrasting this with a 90 to 95% pass rate with a C or higher for dual enrollment students at FSW, I'd like to propose that these rates and the option to dual enroll should be routinely disclosed to students and their parents. I believe that there is a funneling of students to the IB and AP programs as the schools receive the grade benefits from those in the IB and AP protocols, but the grades of those who are dual enrolled do not get credited to the school for the purposes of school grades. It should be noted that IB and AP credits are not always accepted by colleges to which the students apply, while dual enrollment students who complete an AA will have all of the credits transfer if they go and they also have the higher passing rate. Families need to be told this in order to be able to make an adequate educational decision for their children. And I would appreciate it if the board would request the superintendent to look into these statistics further and determine whether or not parents of high-scoring middle schoolers are currently being given full disclosure about the option to dual enroll their students and the pros and cons of each of these options, including the passing rates and the college acceptance of credits. I'm under the understanding from several families that I know personally that children that in the IB and AP classes are not apprised of the dual enrollment option unless they raise the subject themselves. Whether a child enrolls in IB or AP or is dual enrolled should be a decision of the family and not one that should be manipulated by the school district. Further, if sufficient students qualify for dual enrollment and avail themselves of this option, it could potentially reduce the matriculation in our high schools, leading to reduced teacher-student ratios, and may even eliminate the need to build additional high schools currently and in the future. Additionally, about 2 years ago, the board decided to discontinue the option for summer dual enrollment. Many other districts currently offer this option, which is in accordance with the guidelines set out by the state DOE for summer dual enrollment. Even if a Lee County student wishes to dual enroll, they may not do so even if they want to pay so out of pocket. I respectfully request that the board also instruct the superintendent to review the option of dual enrollment for the summer and consider reimplementation effective this summer. Students in our county are at a disadvantage over those in other counties who will be able to graduate with more college credits as a result of not being able to take summer classes. Again, would this not be in the best interest of the students and Lee County as a whole? Early graduation may even offset some of the expenses involved in the summer dual enrollment. I'd also like to take this opportunity to thank Dr. Atkins for responding to the invitation to attend the Chris Ham Hall event.
Ms. Jenny, your time's up, ma'am.
Bob Valenta.
Thank you. I want to publicly thank Dr. Adkins for attending the debate between Chris Ann Hall and Matt Caldwell last Tuesday night. It was a very informative discussion. I don't know if any of you remember the Metro Mall, which is what this building was 20 to 30 years ago. But 25 years ago, while I was a member of the Fort Myers JCs, we did an annual haunted house. 2 years of which we did here in the Metro Mall. 1 year was actually done in a unit that in part makes up this very chamber. We had the most awesome haunted house in town every year. We had rooms with some of the goriest, most gruesome depictions of movie horror. We used mannequin parts dripping with red Caro syrup that looked so realistic it sometimes made us do a double take. This had the effect of sending grown men screaming out of the maze, some of whom took a more direct route right through the maze walls, screaming like little girls. And yet, compared to recent months, that year's haunted house was not the most gruesome and scary thing that I've seen in this very room. When we have a board who clearly doesn't want public opinion or voice, and who does everything they can to undermine public comment, unless it's in unison with their idea of free speech, we have a local governing body out of control and out of lockstep with their intended duty. When we have a board attorney whose job it is to support this board, but instead supports and defends the state of Florida, a conflict of interest, we have a system that is broken, and the public sees it. When the board rammed through the 3-year contract of Dr. Adkins at the last meeting, while slipping it in at the last minute so as to negate public comment, you told the public that they are not welcome, that their opinions are not welcome, and that quite frankly, this board is going to do whatever it wants to do, regardless of the wishes of their employers, the public. We can work together, or we can work separately. It's your choice. So all I can say is trick or treat. Think about it as you vote November as Florida Family Engagement in Education Month. With that said, I have had some interesting conversations with Dr. Adkins, and he has led me to believe that there's a lot that we should be doing now to teach our children the Constitution. I'm taking him at his word and hope that he will be creating some form of curriculum to do exactly that. I believe he now understands that it is in his constitutionally protected purview to do so, and I believe that this board should understand that as well and join the fight to teach our children the Constitution, as written and intended. It is our right and our duty to do so. Let's not continue to shirk this responsibility. I challenge all of you to make this the most important step we can take for our children and future generations. I disclosed potential financial gain from my last item, page 4C3, digital marquee signs from Orlando. There are several local companies that make electronic message centers in the area. We just installed one at Fort Myers Middle Academy.
Thank you, Mr.
Why
Williams.
Orange
Your time's
County?
up, sir.
Chris Quackenbush.
Thank you, Board. I'm Chris Quackenbush, and 2 weeks ago, when you had your last meeting, I was in Tallahassee. And I wanted to report that there's reason for optimism there. There are some bills that will make our commissioner elected, and also the board elected, potentially. And there is also reason for optimism on movement on the issues of high-stakes testing and Common Core. So we will continue to fight. But I tell you, I was shocked and stupefied when I sat down at dinner and got calls from our members of the community telling me that there was a vote to give a 3-year contract with absolutely no notice. No notice at all. There was no urgency. The law says the agenda shall contain the items to be considered in order of presentation. After the agenda has been made available, it says an agenda must be prepared by the agency at least 7 days before the event. That's what the law says. 7 days. When people sat down, they had no idea that this was going to be sprung on them. Just as when Nancy Graham retired. There was no idea in the crowd that this was going to be happening. That was a major occurrence upsetting the community. Here there was no urgency, there was no change going to be taking place. We have the same person sitting in the chair we would have had otherwise. And yet while the chair of the board was gone out of the country, you chose to make that change without her input or any community input. It says here that the board shall actively seek the best qualified, most capable candidate for the position of district superintendent. There was no search done. There were no applications reviewed. There were no interviews, not even any phone calls that we know of. There was no presentation of his views on anything to the public. And now I understand after today's speech that you gave that he is a proponent of Common Core. I didn't know that. He had not said that before.
I spoke about myself.
No, actually you said that, and I'm sure there's a recording of it, that you thought he was in favor of Common Core. Anyway, the chair was absent and not notified, and I guess it might be turnabout as fair play, because when you were in an emergency situation in surgery, you didn't get a chance to comment on Nancy Graham's issues either, and the dropping of the investigation. So I would just like to say that's a little chaotic, and what it does is not promote the public's trust in the board. When we see things like this, there are sunshine violations. We have to be straight with this. You have to give the public notice. And it's important for us to have that so that we can intelligently work together. Thank you.
Lori Fahey.
Thank you. Hi, I'm Lori Fahey, for the record. I do want to mention that the media announced September 22nd that the district testing had stopped. And I have received several calls this week, as I'm sure all of you have, that some children are having 4 checkpoint tests this week. That is not what I came to speak about tonight, though. I'm here to speak on a different subject than I normally do and to ask 3 actions of you. This summer, one of my son's classmates at Cypress Lake Middle School was shot in Fort Myers. Thankfully, she survived. The violence that my son, his classmate, and their peers are experiencing is something that we have never experienced as adults. This is a Lee County issue, and we need to address it as an entire community. Today I spoke with the Florida State Department of Law Enforcement, and they gave me these statistics. This year to date in Fort Myers, we have had 293 assaults with firearms. In unincorporated, we have had 261 assaults with firearms. Last year, for the entire year, there were 624. We've already exceeded that. Those numbers didn't include Cape Coral or other areas. We're living in a war zone, and my first request to you is to provide counseling for our schools, for our students. My son is afraid of getting shot in his own backyard. We live in Estero. These kids the issue's being ignored in our schools. It was never mentioned that this little girl was shot. And it's just not, it's dysfunctional to not acknowledge what's happened. Last week I attended an event at the Quality Life Center called Pennies for Community Progress. We had, and I hope I don't mispronounce anyone's names, it was a very well-attended event. Jim Nathan from Lee Memorial was there, Representative Kurt Clausen, Commissioner Kiker, Tom Hayford of the News Press. The Lee County School District was not there. My second request is that you get involved in this project. My third one, and I will send copies to you, is an initiative out of Atlanta.
Thank you, Ms. Fahey. Your time's up, ma'am.
Okay, I'll send it. The mayor's. I just have to get that.
Mary Orthodoxou.
Board, Dr. Atkins. Thank you, Dr. Atkins, for attending the Chrisanne Hall debate with Matt Colwell. We've had another board member that attended a workshop called Roots of Liberty, where the Constitution was taught in depth. Now, I'm going to make a statement. What happened here with the way the board handled the 3-year contract was a direct violation of sunshine laws. You all know it. Not to say Dr. Atkins is not the guy for the job. I don't know that yet. What I will say is, so far I'm disappointed. As Dr. Atkins stated that the district testing was going to stop, I'm speaking to teachers across the community, and apparently the district testing has doubled from last year. It's still happening. So the word, again, is not going down to the schools, sadly. Communication is not happening, and that was a big issue with Dr. Graham. Now, another issue. Word has come back to me that a certain party on this board has made a statement in public to certain people that if certain members of the community get out of hand, they will be removed when that certain person becomes board chair. So I want to publicly make a statement here. The minute you violate my constitutional rights, you're going to have a lawsuit. Nobody's going to violate the Constitution. As far as I know, it still stands in America. And it's a damn shame that this kind of community talk is going on. Also, Mr. Fox, I know you want that half-cent tax, but there's some things the community doesn't know, like $1.6 million missing from this school budget. Yeah, we know about it. So I am demanding an audit be done of the books of this school district. Another talk in the community. The Graham situation and the Daley situation. Stopping the investigation because it's going to uncover other things. And there's going to be a scapegoat from the administration office, fired to shut us up. Well, I got news for you. The scapegoat you want to pick, she's already protected. Thank you.
Next is approval of action items in the agenda under consent. Board members, are there any agenda items you wish to pull for discussion under the unfinished business portion of the agenda? Ms. Fisher.
I have no pulls this evening. Thank you.
Mrs. Dozier.
I have none, thank you.
Mr. Teuber.
None.
Mrs. La Riviere.
None.
And I have none. Is there a motion to approve the agenda's consent action items?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Mr. Teuber. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Included in the approval of the consent items on the agenda are resolutions proclaiming November 2015 as Florida Family Engagement in Education Month, October 23rd to 31st, 2015 is National Red Ribbon Week, and November 1st through 7th, 2015 as Veterans Appreciation Week. Oh, what happened to the Scouts?
They left.
Left.
They left.
Oh, well, we had in our audience Boy Scout Troop 3300 under the leadership of Patrick Martin, and I understand they were here working on their communication merit badge. So, well, we were glad to have them here when they were here. Dr. Adkins, would you please present your recommendations?
Yes, the first recommendation, good cause item, approval to award RFP number R157230RC, Fresh Produce. I recommend board approval to award RFP number R157230RC for Fresh Produce to Oaks Farms, Inc., as indicated on the attached ranking form for 1 year period beginning October 20th, 2015 through October 19th, 2016, with renewal options for 2 additional 1-year periods upon written agreement of the vendor and the district at an estimated annual expenditure of $2,500,000 for the first year. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all documents.
Board members, you've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Fisher, seconded by Mrs. La Riviere. Any discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next item is I recommend board approval of the new contract for the City of Sanibel to support School Resource Officer Program for a period of August 17th, 2015 to August 16th, 2016 at a total cost not to exceed $41,200. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
By Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Mr. Teuber. Any discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval to piggyback State of Florida contract number 618-00011-00 for the purchase of office supplies and products awarded to multiple vendors, including Home Depot, for the period of October 20th, 2015 through October 17th, 2016, for an estimated expenditure of $1,250,000 with an option to cancel if deemed to be in the best interest of the district. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
Okay, was that contract number correct? And was the name of the vendor correct?
Office Depot.
Office Depot, I
Office
stand
Depot.
corrected. So let me go through that again. I recommend board approval to piggyback State of Florida contract number 618-00011-01 for the purchase of office supplies and products awarded to multiple vendors, including Office Depot, for the period of you see where I go often. For the period of October 20th, 2015 through October 17th, 2016, for an estimated expenditure of $1,250,000 with an option to cancel if deemed to be in the best interest of the district. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Teuber, seconded by Mrs. Dozier. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye. Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
All right, next item is I recommend board approval of the ITF's recommendation to continue 3 existing medical plans, 5773, 3769, and the high deductible health plan, HDHP, with a health savings account, HSA, with no increase to the current rates as indicated in the table provided to board action item, with an expected annual cost to the district of $63 million. I further recommend approval of the plans and rates to be effective from April 1, 2016 through March 31st, 2017. Approval authorizes the superintendent or designee to execute all related documents.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved. Second.
Moved by Mrs. Fisher, seconded by Mrs. Dozier. Discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the estimated annual expenditure of $670,000 for RFP number R137119GN, awarded to Minnesota Life Insurance Company for the period of April 1st, 2016 through March 31st, 2017. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Ms. LaRiviere. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next recommendation, I recommend board approval to award RFP number R157222TA for group dental insurance to Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, MetLife, as indicated on the attached tabulation sheets. This contract will be effective for a 4-year period beginning April 1, 2016 through March 31st, 2020, with renewal options for 2 additional 2-year periods upon written agreement of the vendor and the district at no cost to the district. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. LaRiviere, second by Mrs. Dozier. Discussion. Mrs. Dozier.
Thank you. First of all, I want to thank the representatives from MetLife and Delta Dental that were here this evening. Thank you for coming and shedding some light on this. And board members, I'm going to talk a little bit about history. You know how I love history. And I want to tell you that we are leaving a company that there was a lot of controversy around when we went with Humana. And because we had had Delta Dental prior to then, and I promise you I don't have any stock or I don't have any ties with Delta Dental. However, I did hear from a lot of employees. I want to say, first of all, before I talk about our employees, I want to say that I appreciate the work of the committee. I have always appreciated the work of the Insurance Task Force Committee, and I value their opinions. However, I also value the opinions of all of our employees out there. And once I never stopped hearing, I believe it's been 4 years. It's either been 3 or 4 years. I never stopped hearing from our employees. Mrs. Dozier, are you still watching this? Mrs. Dozier, are you doing something about that? Mrs. Dozier, are you going to get Delta Dental back for us? And of course, my response was, we have to go out for an RFP. And that's the fair way of doing things. Well, it wasn't fair before, and you found out it wasn't fair, and you gave it to that other company anyway, blah, 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 you know. So I've been hearing all the different conversations around a lot of employees. In fact, I really expected to hear from a cute little teacher, elementary teacher. She came to so many of our meetings, and she was vigilant on talking about this, and she still talks about it. In fact, she's made contact and comments. And you know, I looked at the scoring sheets. I went over everything. I looked at the scoring sheets. I looked at the, you know, if you look at just the scoring sheets and you don't look at anything else, then Aetna should have got the bid, because the highest score was Aetna with 887, Delta with 743, and MetLife with 740. If you look at the written proposal that they have to give and the interview, those were what were scored on, and then other factors came into play, which I'm not going to go into the hour and something that Dr. Atkins and I spent earlier today. I think we spent almost an hour and a half talking about this. We also pulled in Mr. Atkins as a result, and to try to sum everything up, I'm going to tell you that we are a large district. We also offer choice, you know, and I said to Dr. Atkins, Dr. Atkins, how can we do this that would be in the best interest of everybody here, the best interest of our employees first and foremost to me. because I have heard from so many of our employees, Dr. Atkins, I am asking if you would be willing to alter your recommendation, because we are one of the largest districts in the state of Florida, and do like many of those districts do, and offer choices. We are a choice district after all, and we are leading the choice wagon here. So I am asking that you offer choices to our employees in this. That way, you will get me out from having to lead the banner with this insurance that I've been leading with for 4 years. And I promise I will not make you lose any more hair if you will do this for me this evening. But otherwise, you're going to be totally bald. So I'm urging you to reconsider your recommendation.
Other comments from the board, questions?
Well, yes.
Ms. Fisher?
In offering a choice, what would that involve? You know, if we were to offer a choice of two different vendors or two different providers, what would that involve as far as us as a sitting district? I know other districts do it because
There are other districts that do offer, you know, different choices, and you know, well, first of all, let me say this. We did make a request, Mr. Maynard, to get materials from you in advance so I would know what we were reacting to, so at least I could do some research. But we did not get those materials in advance, so I'm kind of forced to listen to what both parties say and then try to make a decision based on that. So that makes this very difficult. So I don't have a lot of knowledge about, you know, what other districts do, because for us this is quite an unprecedented event. Now that doesn't mean that we don't examine that particular option, because I think at the end of the day you have to do what's in the best interest of employees. I have served on the insurance task force also probably about a decade or so, so I believe in the work that they do, and what I did do was spend a lot of time going through this particular recommendation to make sure that I was very comfortable with it. I'm comfortable with the recommendation, and I actually would appreciate the opportunity to go through this with some of you all in the detail that I did with Mrs. Dozier earlier today, because I think it's important to value the work of this particular committee. However, the problem that I'm faced with is hearing some of this information for the first time. It is difficult for me to react to some of the assertions of Delta here at the table. I will say this, that we did do a survey, and the DHMO product that was provided by Humana overwhelmingly in our survey was, I mean, we had nothing but negative comments about that particular product. We had one neutral, and the rest of them were overwhelmingly negative, which is why the insurance task force went in a different direction as it related to the DPO the higher option DPO instead of going with the DHMO, because it was very unpopular. So I just want to address that piece of the presentation. The rest of it, I honestly would like to request the chair give me a moment to consult with staff so I could at least get a little information, their perspective on some of the information that was provided, as well as the option that's being proposed.
And I think you should have that option. So let's take, how long would you like to speak with your staff? Maybe 5-10 minutes?
Yeah.
Okay, let's take a 10-minute recess. We will re-adjourn at 7:41.
Thank you for providing me the opportunity to consult with staff. I'll be honest. It's it's just disappointing to be here again with dental. As you're aware, I've been a part of this for a number of years now, and this one has always been very difficult. I'm going to pull my recommendation this evening. Let me explain why. I'm not paid to be popular. I'm paid to make recommendations to this board that I'm comfortable with making. I am disappointed, as I expressed earlier, that I get information at the last minute, as some of our public have also expressed, and that I have to react to it. One of the things that I do want you to know is that we did consult with Mr. Martin earlier, and he did explain that Florida statute allows us to award to multiple vendors. We had never explored such an option in our school district before. There's also an opportunity to go out with a private exchange where employees literally have a menu of items that they can choose from. Again, that's nothing that we have explored here in the district. Now, a concern that I would have right out of the gate is if we went with let's just award with multiple vendors, is the RFP does state that if there's a 25%, staff wasn't able to produce that number, and that's again where you need time to have an accurate decision. But if we have a 25% deviation in terms of the number of enrollees, then the vendor rates are no longer valid. And so then everybody can go out, everybody will want to go out and negotiate new rates. So you literally have to throw out the RFP. The other thing that I just need to point out again is that those survey results on the DHMO, that was very unpopular, so it wasn't an avenue that we wanted to pursue. That was a decision that we felt we got from employee feedback. The other thing that we need to be, the presenters spoke about networks. And one of the things I would like an opportunity to do is to sit down with every board member, like I did with Ms. Dozier today, in all fairness, and talk to you about the work of the insurance task force and the networks and all that. You need to be aware of all of that. We did have the presentation, but I think the degree of complexity of the work bears discussion. There's other things that you really need to consider. Any move toward any vendor means that there is going to be what we call disruption. Mm-hmm. Okay, so we are going to have some type of, and we've studied every single, whether it's Aetna, Delta, MetLife, there is going to be disruption. And what that means is that my dentist, and I honestly don't know, and I don't want to know what because I don't want that to influence my decision. I don't know if my dentist is a member of MetLife, Delta, Humana. He is Humana, but I don't know if the move to another company is going to eliminate him being in network. So we do know that probably 60-some%, there will be no disruption. But there's a significant population, no matter which way you go in this case, that will experience some type of disruption. So what I would like to do is take this opportunity to fully vet every assertion made today and to bring back a recommendation in 2 weeks after having been able to spend that time with you and also address every one of the items that the folks from Delta brought up, because I think that's only fair to all of us. We're trying to make the best decision here. That's all I want to do. And if I'm not comfortable making it based on the current information I have, I don't want to make it. So if that's your pleasure, that's what I'd like to do and bring it back in 2 weeks.
Mr. Martin.
Before the superintendent can withdraw the recommendation, since there's a motion on the floor, the motion would have to be withdrawn.
I withdraw my second.
And it was moved by Ms.
Ms.
LaRiviere.
LaRiviere, and I withdraw the motion.
Okay. Next recommendation, please, Dr. Atkins.
Okay, next recommendation is I recommend board approval to award RFP number R157224TA for the group short-term and long-term disability insurance to Metropolitan Life Insurance Company, MetLife, as indicated on the attached tabulation sheet. This contract will be effective for a 3-year period beginning April 1st, 2016 through March 31st, 2019, with renewal options for 2 additional 1-year periods upon the written agreement of the vendor and the district at no cost to the district. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all related documents.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Fisher, seconded by Mrs. Dozier. Discussion. All in favor signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Okay, next item, I recommend board approval of the listed firms for FDP 366 continuing contract for general contractors, $200,000 to $2 million for the period of October 20th, 2015 to October 19th, 2018. Christel Construction, Lee County. Gates Butts Institutional Construction, LLC, Lee County. Gulf Point Construction Company, Inc., Lee County. Owen Ames Kimball Company, Lee County. Suffolk Construction Company, Inc., Lee County. Westco Builders of Florida, Inc., Lee County. Wright Construction Group, Inc., Lee County. Approval authorizes the superintendent to execute all necessary documents.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Mrs. Fisher. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board denial of the application for charter school status from iTech Preparatory Academy, Inc. for the school designed for students in grades 9 through 12, named iTech Preparatory Academy, and the adoption of the executive summary as the notice of specific reasons for denial to be provided to the applicant.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Mr. Teuber. Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the application for charter school status from Harlem Heights Community Charter School, Inc. for the school designed for students in grades K-3, named Harlem Heights Community Charter School.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second.
Moved by Mr. Teuber, seconded by Mrs. Fisher, I think it was.
Yeah, it was.
Discussion. Seeing none, all in favor?
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0. Okay, before we close the regular meeting and open the public hearing, Dr. Adkins, would you please present your recommendations for this evening's public hearing items?
Yes, first item, I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.01, scope of district to improve clarity, align with current processes, and eliminate duplication. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015. Second is I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.03, authority of the school board to improve clarity, align with current processes, and eliminate duplication. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015. Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.04, school board responsibilities to improve clarity, align with current processes, and eliminate duplication and comply with legislative requirements. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015. Next one is I recommend board approval of the adoption of policy 1.05, school board member code of ethics and boardsmanship to address the accreditation report, required action to adopt a code of ethics. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015. Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.08, quality focus for continuous improvement to improve clarity, align with current processes, and eliminate duplication and comply with legislative requirements. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015. And finally, I recommend board approval of the revision to policy 1.12, employee discipline hearings before the school board to improve clarity, align with current processes, eliminate duplication, and comply with legislative requirements. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
We will now recess the regular school board meeting and open the public hearing. As indicated, the public hearing this evening is to consider approval of revisions to Policy 1.01, Scope of District, approval of revisions to Policy 1.03, Authority of the School Board, approval of revisions to Policy 1.04, School Board Responsibilities, approval of the revisions to Policy 1.05, School Board Member Code of Ethics and Boardmanship, approval of the revisions to Policy 1.08, Quality Focus for Continuous Improvement, and approval of the revisions to Policy 1.12, Employee Discipline Hearings before the School Board. At this time, the public will be invited to speak on these 6 items only. The time allowed for comment is 3 minutes. Is there anyone on the right side of the auditorium who wishes to address the board? State your name, please. Anybody on the left side? State your name. Mm-hmm. Anybody else? Okay, Mr. Valenta, would you approach, please?
Okay, I'm all for ethics. This isn't it. 105 under community conduct says, under 2A, support the decisions of the board after honoring the right of individual members to express opposing viewpoints and vote their convictions. This is the equivalent of future Congresses being bound by previous Congresses, which you know full well isn't the case. It's a way for the winners of an argument to punish dissenting voices if they don't toe the line. This stifles debate and curbs future dissent. In other words, it forevermore puts an end to that discussion. I mean, it really does, because you're not allowed. You're disallowed from then saying, see, 6 months ago we voted on this and I was against it and this is why I was against it. No, you can't do that. That's absurd. Why would you vote? Whatever side of any issue you're on, why would you vote to stifle your voice? You're representatives of the people, each and every one of you. Why would you give away that sovereignty? That makes no sense to me. Also, the phrase governance team is an offensive phrase created by One World UN Agenda 21 elitists. That's by their own admission, not mine. That's right on their website. It's an attempt to undermine the sovereignty of the U.S. and or any of its member states. If we don't learn from history, we're doomed to repeat it. 1.12 replaces impartial hearing officer with administrative law judge. Who is this judge? Why are they not impartial? Who elects or appoints them? And what constitutional authority do they have? Thank you.
Lori Fahey.
I've confused the numbers on here, but is it B or C that starts with the board will direct the superintendent to? Don't start my time yet, please. Sorry. I'll be brief, though.
Are you asking about AAC?
Is it policy 103 or 104? One of them was 103 before, and it was changed.
Yes, numbers are also being changed. 103 is authority of the school board, and 104 is school board responsibilities.
Okay, I believe it's authority to school board. And I speak on these every now and then. I'm hoping that you will be able to modify this one a little bit. A is establish a challenging curriculum and student assessment system that is founded upon the mastery of basic skills, including reading, phonics, writing, grammar, and math. We need the arts, science, history, civics, health, the whole child curriculum in there. We wonder why we have so much testing. It's right in here. K is provide preparation programs for local, state, and national assessments. We were going to end the test prep. We're teaching the standards. They should be able to pass it. On 2, to establish policy to ensure that all students in regular ed program will be provided with the tools needed to enable them to read on grade level by the end of 3rd grade. That should be all students. and with a program like Linda Mood Bell, it would reach all students. I know some of these haven't been edited for this, but I'm hoping as long as you're voting on it, that it's something you could consider modifying. On the communication 5B, we're definitely not in compliance there because the checkpoints are still being given and the parents are not being informed about it, and it's affecting our kids' grades. So I hope you'll consider it. Thank you.
Mary Orthodoxou.
I'm reading these recommendations and these changes, and each one of them you're giving up the sovereignty of this board. You're handing over your authority to a hierarchy when in the Constitution you are to answer to the people. We tell you what you're supposed to do. And what's been happening here with this Common Core and the UN Agenda 21, and if anybody takes the time to read that document on education, they are taking away our authority, yours and ours as parents, and I will not sit back and tolerate this. We have a constitution in this country. We need to stand up and honor our Constitution and protect the sovereignty of this state and our nation and this county. You guys are just saying, oh, well, I give up and I'll just let you rule me. We don't have a king here, unless you're going to give him that power. These things happen because people do not stand up and fight for their rights. Guys, what is wrong with you? You're seeing the standards are not working, you're seeing Common Core isn't working, you're seeing the test scores in the toilet, and you just keep doing it, repeating the same mistakes. And our children are paying the price. So you sit here in good conscience tonight, and you vote on this stuff, and you say, might as well not have a job. We don't need you up there to be yes people for legislators. That's not what we voted you in office to do. Stop. Thank you.
I will now close this public hearing and reconvene the regular school board meeting of October 20th, 2015. Dr. Adkins, please restate your recommendations for this evening's public hearing items.
Okay, the first item is I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.01, scope of district, to improve clarity, align with current processes, and eliminate duplication. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
Board members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mr. Teuber, seconded by Mrs. LaRiviere. Any discussion? Mrs. Dozier.
Well, on this one, the first sentence says, "The School Board of Lee County is the governing body of the School District of Lee County and is responsible for the control, operation, and supervision of all public schools in the county pursuant to the provisions and minimum standards prescribed by Florida statutes and State Board of Education rules." And with that statement, I don't feel as though we are giving up any of our authority. Therefore, I will be supporting this recommendation.
For the board's information, that language is straight out of Florida Constitution.
Any other discussion? Seeing none, all in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.03, authority of the school board to improve clarity, align with current processes, and eliminate duplication. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mrs. Fisher, seconded by Mrs. LaRiviere. Discussion? Mrs. Fisher.
Yes, and in this one, it repeats that the School Board of Lee County is responsible for the operation, control, and supervision of the public schools of the district and is empowered to determine the policies necessary for effective operation and general improvement of the school system. And then in 2, it says the school board shall exercise any power except as expressly prohibited by the state constitution or the general law in providing its responsibility to operate, control, and supervise all public schools in the district. So I will be supporting this. Thank you.
Any other discussion? All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.04, school board responsibilities, improve clarity, align with current processes, eliminate duplication, and comply with legislative requirement. Effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. LaRiviere, seconded by Mrs. Fisher. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carried. Mrs. Dozier.
Aye.
Thank you. Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the adoption of policy 1.05, school board member code of ethics and boardmanship to address the accreditation report. Required action to adopt a code of ethics. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
You've heard the superintendent's recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Moved by Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Mrs. Fisher. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying, oh, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
I was looking to see where I had written my question down. Mr. Martin, this question is for you. In this, where it says that after a decision is made that by the majority of the board will, other board members will comply, and I'm looking for it and I can't find it right now. I apologize.
On the first page, 2A.
2A, okay. So, there was a statement made that we would be giving up our rights to be able to bring the topic up at future board meetings. Please identify whether or not that is a correct statement.
No, I would not consider that to be a correct statement. I don't believe it's the intention of the language of that specific provision under 2A. It doesn't suggest that the decision could never be changed, but additionally, if you look at the prelude language at the beginning of the policy, the last two sentences indicate that the board establishes these standards of conduct of its members in providing service to the school board, that these standards are expectations for board member conduct. The adoption of such standards is not intended to compel compliance. So the intention of the board is not to establish these as rules that cannot that must be acted on consistently by every board member.
Thank you. And I'm going to use the example of school start times. There was a time when the school start times were voted on by the board, and then we had to go back and we had to change the start times. So that is a big example of a time that there was something that some people voted for, some people did not, because it was not a unanimous decision, and then later the board reversed a decision. And there have been times in this board when we've reversed decisions. So that just because it's saying that you don't or you shouldn't, it doesn't prohibit you from bringing it up. It just says that it, yeah, and I understand that language and what that means, but what I'm telling you is I'm not giving up any of my rights. I'm simply complying with something that we are needing to do in order to maintain our status of being a certified school district.
Any other comments? All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation, I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.08, quality focus for continuous improvement to improve clarity, align with current processes, and eliminate duplication, and comply with legislative requirements. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Second. Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Mrs. LaRiviere. Discussion. All in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Motion carries 5-0.
Next recommendation is I recommend board approval of the revisions to policy 1.12, employee discipline hearings before the school board to improve clarity, align with current processes, and eliminate duplication, and comply with legislative requirements. The effective date of this revision shall be Wednesday, October 21st, 2015.
Board members, you've heard the recommendation. Is there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Mr. Teuber, seconded by Mrs. Dozier. Discussion. Mr. Martin.
If I could just take a moment to clarify or to address the question raised by the speaker. You do see throughout this policy removal of the term impartial hearing officer and replacement of that term with administrative law judge. The administrative law judges are assigned by the Division of Administrative Hearings, a state agency which by statute has jurisdiction to hear administrative hearings such as this type of employee discipline matters. The statute in the past used the term impartial hearing officer to identify those individuals that adjudicate those hearings. The term has been changed to administrative law judge, so this is just to change that term to match the language of the statute.
Thank you. Any other discussion, Mrs. Dozier?
And I will just say that this is an example of some of the things that are done in Tallahassee. Sometimes they simply do nothing more than just change something here or there because it has to look like they're doing some work up there. And then we have to comply with everything that they do because they make all these different changes during the session, and then it all comes downhill, and we have to make sure that we're in compliance with all of those. And this is an example of that. Thank you.
Mr. Torber.
I wanted Mr. Martin to clarify the change.
Okay. Oh, okay. All right. All those in favor, please signify by saying aye.
Aye.
Aye. Motion carries 5-0. Okay, time for board member comments. Mrs. Fisher.
Okay. Well, first I want to take a minute to compliment the Cypress High School Strings Orchestra. They were outstanding. And I've seen them out in the public at Barnes & Noble and other places, and they are always well received and so well behaved, and they present beautifully. I had an opportunity to visit a pre-K class to read to a group of the children, and it's been not that many years since I've actually been in a classroom for any length of time to read to children, and I just want to give a special thanks and a shout out to our early childhood education team because it's a whole different ballgame now, and the children are wonderful and adorable, and they're getting a very good start to their educational career because they're getting such a well-rounded approach. They're learning everything from how to brush their teeth to be kind and mannerly and take turns, and it's just, those teachers deserve a good gold medal. I wanted to thank my colleagues for our board workshops last Friday and Saturday, and moving forward, I think that as we have the superintendent focusing on those items that need to be attended to and doing that immediately, great things will happen. I hope, Dr. Adkins, that someone can reply to the people who came from the communities surrounding the LLL school. I know they're all gone here, but I think that deserves that. And then regarding the AP, IB, and dual enrollment, can we do some kind of a review on that? Because I know that there's a high success rate with the dual enrollment, and I just want to make sure that we're getting the same school points, et cetera, for those as we are the AP and IB classes. We had a mention of Red Ribbon Week, and I just wanted to say that on behalf of the Drug Free Coalition, that on October 24th, the Lehigh Acres Youth to Youth Media Advocacy Group will be celebrating at the Make a Difference Day. And on October 25th, it's Red Ribbon Family Day at Alico Family Golf. Wear your red t-shirt or your sad shirt and receive $2 off. On October 27th, the annual Red Ribbon Celebration with Kathy Order, honoring Lee County superstars right here in our boardroom at 6 p.m. Students will be honored for their athletic and artistic accomplishments and for using their #refuse to, when it comes to underage drinking and when it comes to using drugs, #refuse. So we appreciate all the participation and support of the Drug Free Coalition in helping our kids stay healthy and focused on a healthy lifestyle. I had the opportunity, along with Mrs. LaRiviere, to attend the Florida School Boards Association completion of their legislative platform, and they ended up the other day with a very short platform, and it's 4 points, and I just wanted to share those with the audience. The Florida School Board 2016 submits this and urges the legislature to, number one, halt the practice using statewide standard test results for any purpose other than diagnostic purposes. Number two, provide sufficient per-student funding to place Florida in the upper quartile nationally and ensure that funding for each categorical allocation within the FEFP is sufficient to cover actual costs, growth, and inflation, and is not reduced by either enrollment or revenue changes during the fiscal year. Restore the authority to school districts to levy by simple majority vote up to 2 mills for capital purposes, and maintain the current authority of school districts to determine the use of capital outlay millage revenue. And lastly, to protect taxpayers' dollars by ensuring all schools receiving state funds adhere to the same fiscal and academic accountability measures. And that's designed to say that all public, charter, any schools receiving state funds comply with the same requirements. In addition to that, the FSBA supports the recommendations regarding the Florida Standards Assessment that were issued by the Florida Association of District School Superintendents. Along with that, the Florida School Boards Association sent a resolution talking a lot about the accountability system. I will not read it because it's pretty lengthy, but it is on the FSBA website for your perusal. I want to thank Dr. Atkins for moving the ship in the right direction these last few weeks. And I also want to thank our bus drivers who have been challenged in getting the kids to school on time. And I had a call from a grandparent who said, "My kid's bus driver is wonderful, really cares about them, tries to get here on time." And one lady called me and she said, "If he's not here by 3:57, he's here by 4 o'clock." So I think we're making progress in that area, and I'm glad to hear that. And thanks to the teachers, the paras, and everyone else at the school who is helping our students, and to the parents for trusting us with their most precious resources. Thank you.
Mrs. Dozier.
Yes, thank you. I also found myself tapping my feet and moving around a little bit when Cypress Lake played. I always enjoy hearing my schools and the performances and everything else, so kudos to that group for being here tonight. Also, Dr. Atkins, there was a comment made by the public about a $1.6 million deficit or money that's missing. Could you address that under your comments, or could you help us out with that? Also, I want to thank you for pulling the Delta Dental thing and your willingness to look over it and spend as much time with every board member as you spent with me on dealing with this. And I want to also say that it was not that I was certainly questioning the IT group. I wasn't trying to question any staff members, but because I have the utmost respect for everyone's work involved in this, I was simply trying to find a win-win for everyone, including our employees. That's all I have. Thank you.
Okay, Mr. Teuber. Mrs. LaRiviere.
Okay, I too enjoyed hearing the Cypress Lake Strings Orchestra, and this coming next Tuesday, an ensemble will be performing at the Burroughs Home when the Uncommon Friends Foundation has their Uncommon Evening, and I look forward to that. They will be performing as well as the Fort Myers High Jazz Band, and that will be, it's always a pleasure. The exciting things about the strings is they are fundraising for going to New York. They will be playing at the New York Philharmonic. And so we're looking forward to that. I too, just to reiterate along with Mary, the comments about what happened at the FSBA legislative meeting, The resolution has to be approved by the board, but no one has any doubt that it will be. And the other question I wanted to ask is, I believe that it would be wondering about us as a school board from Lee County District School to do a similar resolution regarding the state accountability system that would mirror. But that's something that's just out there. And then we can see about doing that. The other part that was discussed too at the board meeting was the possible amendment to the Constitution, where the Commissioner of Education would go back to being an elected commissioner. And I was surprised, and evidently this is how it had been. The school board was actually comprised of the governor's cabinet. And so it was at that time. Ms. Dozier, you're giving me a raised eyebrow.
No.
Oh, okay.
I'm listening.
Okay. And so, it does not mean that. The state board. Yeah. And I probably knew that years ago before the amendment was done, but I'd forgotten that piece. So the amendment, though, that is going forth right now that's been proposed and is being pushed around in the legislature is for an elected commissioner and then going back to the board as elected previously. And that's all.
Dr. Atkins, I was asked by a member of the audience during the recess a question that I couldn't answer, so I'm just going to ask you to answer it for me when time comes for your comments. The good cause item tonight, when did we know? And maybe, Mr. Martin, you can answer this. Contractually, can we go after people who renege on contracts? So if one of you would just address that when it's your turn. The only other comment I want to make is a misstatement by Chris Quackenbush. I did speak this afternoon at a function, and I prefaced my comments several times, and you were there, to say that I was speaking for myself. I was not speaking for the board. I was not representing Dr. Atkins or anybody else. What I said was strictly my opinion. And the only reference I made to Common Core was that I support Florida standards because our vision and our mission statement align with the Florida standards. And I do believe that, and I stand by that comment, but I want to make it absolutely clear that I was not representing a point of view by Dr. Atkins or anybody else on this board. So let that be understood. That being said, those are my comments. Just want to remind the board that we're going to go over and do plus delta after the meeting tonight. And Mr. Martin, you're up.
Yes, Ms. Morgan, board members. First, I wanted to address an issue that was raised by one of the speakers, and that was with respect to the contract of employment for the superintendent, Dr. Atkins, that was acted on at the October 6th meeting. As the speaker indicated, the relevant Florida statute, which is section 120.525, does indicate that an agenda must be prepared by the agency, such as a school board, in time to ensure that a copy of the agenda is available to members of the public 7 days before the event being a regular meeting of that agency, a regular school board meeting. The statute goes on to say that after that agenda has been made available, a change shall be made only for good cause, as determined by the person designated to preside and stated in the record. With respect to that item at the October 6th meeting, it was brought forward as good cause. There was a statement made in the record to provide justification for why it was brought that night, and there was a decision made by the presiding officer that it was appropriate to add to the agenda as good cause. So in adding that item and taking action on that item in October 6th, regular school board meeting, that was done in compliance with Florida statute. I'm not sure that I understand exactly the question, Ms. Morgan, but if the question is whether the school board would have some recourse in the event that the superintendent failed to perform his duties or chose to terminate his contract with the
No,
board?
no, 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 no.
No,
It
I'm
had-
sorry,
No,
I'm
it
not-
was the good cause item about the fresh produce.
Okay, excuse me. Okay. Good cause tonight.
I knew that.
The last meeting, okay, excuse me.
So,
Yes, the board does, there is some recourse in terms of the potential disqualification of that particular vendor from future competitive solicitations, because there was a contractual responsibility to continue to provide that service, that product for a period of time, and if they fail to do that, that can provide some basis to disqualify them, and you do have a policy with respect to a procedure for debarment, so that is a consideration, yes.
but we don't put in any financial penalty if somebody fails to complete the term of their contract.
There would not be a financial penalty. There could be a loss of future business.
Okay, thank you.
That's all I have. Thank you.
Yeah, Dr. Atkins.
You, first of all, as it relates to that particular item, you received information from me. I believe it was actually the day that I was noticed myself. If not the day after, it was no more than that. It came in real quick, and you know, the rationale is we did not want an interruption of fresh produce for our kids, obviously. So I try to get those things as soon as I'm notified of them. Several things that I'd like to address that came out in public comment, and also, but before I do that, I want to talk about the board workshop, at least the part that I was in attendance. I really appreciate the opportunity to hear clearly from the board what the board's expectations are. I think that's going to be very helpful moving forward, because you know, I believe you were very clear, and I thought we had a very good discussion about that. I do have a real desire to have an ongoing discussion about performance and include metrics to back that up. So I'm going to ask that you participate with me in that discussion. So anyway, I liked what the facilitator said. I agree with what the facilitator said, and I felt that that afternoon was very beneficial. And for this person, I walked away from there feeling pretty good, you know, that things were clear. I do want to talk about inclusion. Mr. Riegel brought that up today. You know, one of the things that we have noticed when I went out to visit with TALC last year, that was actually the largest item that they brought up, was a concern from teachers. And that's a concern that I continue to hear, is about the supports that teachers have in the classroom. There's teachers that have specialized ESE training that are well equipped to handle you know, many situations regarding students that you know, have behavioral concerns that they have to address. And then there's other teachers that do not have that particular training. And what I've heard from not only teachers, but also concerns from parents that have contacted me, and then even from our own executive team, who I have to compliment, because our executive team has jumped all over this issue and has gone out and actually, I mean, literally in some cases, school by school, looked at you know, what the concerns are. I had a discussion with Mike Burston yesterday at length also about his feelings about it. I think we have a lot of work in this area. So we will go to work on it, and so I appreciate those comments. Ms. Fox mentioned the concern about retention. And again, this is something you hear from teachers quite often, the loss of the AC, or loss of the PSC contract and an annual contract. And you know, one of the things that we continue to work on is, you know, if you are a really good teacher in this district or a great teacher in this district, that should not be something that you're sweating year to year, you know, whether or not I'm going to be renewed. If I go sideways with my principal over a disagreement, I mean, one of the things when I was a principal that I have to say I appreciated is when a teacher let me know when, you know, you're going in the wrong direction. I'm just going to be blunt with you, you're going to be in the wrong direction. Well, I want them to be able to say that to me, because sometimes I am going in the wrong direction. So teachers are professionals, you know, and we want to treat them like professionals. So this is an issue that we continue to work on. I want them to stay in this, the good and great teachers to stay in this district and to feel competent and confident that they will be renewed from year to year. I also, however, want to address performance, and that's another piece. And it should not be where it's a 2-year process to deal with poor performance. But having said that, we non-repoint a number of teachers every year. I mean, it's a large number. I think we lost 500 teachers last year. Some of them, many of them, most of them probably annual contracts, some of that retirement and moving out of the area. But we brought back 150 annual contract teachers that had effective evaluations, and that is just a churn that we need to eliminate. I did appreciate getting the invitation out to the discussion on nullification in the Fifth Amendment, Chris Ann Hall and Matt Caldwell. I think those things are important. I like history, and so I was a little embarrassed, I have to say, that I learned a little bit about the Constitution as I'm there that I didn't know. So that was, again, a bit of an embarrassment on my part. But I think those things are important because we have to be educated, particularly as it relates to the federal role, the state role, and the local role in education. And my concern, I think I've been pretty public in my comments about I really have been concerned over the loss of local control over the last few years. I do believe in accountability. I do believe that we have to have a standard, but you're not going to find a Common Core bumper sticker, I love Common Core, on my truck. It's not going to be there. So don't paint me as that. I think that I am concerned about having more of a voice at this level in terms of what we're allowed to teach our students. So that's what I'm about. A number of members of the community came here from Bonita. I did appreciate the fact, one thing that's been wonderful about working with Bonita is everybody is excited about the opportunities that present themselves in down there. And so we are working with the mayor. In fact, Mark Mora and I think Don went and met with Ben Nelson, the mayor, and also Christine Ross recently to help us with, working with that community in terms of where we're going to place a high school. We're still in that negotiation process, but regardless of what the outcome is, we want to work with the community and be partners of that community. They've been great so far, and we want to continue that. Testing continues to be brought up. That's another thing that our executive team is really helping us out with is, I believe, and I don't want to embarrass a board member, but I'm going to read something, an in-depth conversation about assessments, tell us what needs to be done about progress monitoring and feel confident about what we're doing, how we're doing it, and why. That's something that I think the public deserves, the board deserves, our teachers deserve, and so that's a discussion that we will continue to have. I'm also continue to be concerned about the degree of testing that I hear. I see one thing in terms of what we are supposed to be doing, and then I hear about other things. So I think that is something that continued communication is extremely important. Finally, and I hope I didn't miss anything here, but there was, safety and security is an issue in this community that continues to, I hate to say the word escalate, but it does seem to really, it is getting scary. And so, one of the things that I've been talking about with Mr. Dobson and the operations team is the need to really fully address this issue with a comprehensive safety and security plan for our school district. So he is busy working with his team to do that. I really wanted to see our response to some of the difficulties at our high schools improve. I wasn't satisfied with our result, and the principal at Dunbar High, for example, he's a good friend of mine, and he let me know how he felt, and that's what I want him to do. Is if you don't feel, I think we were trying to support him, but we need to be better equipped to support him better. So that is a conversation that we will continue to have, because I see this as increasing concern in this community, and it's something that we're just going to need to be on top of. And then finally, I do appreciate all the discussion this evening. I appreciate the support of the board, and I also appreciate the conversations with the community. That's one of the things I really like about this particular Lee County community. I feel that we are getting on the same page, and we're going to make some incredible progress in the near future. So I appreciate being part of that. Thank you.
Thank you. At this point, having no other business to come before this body, I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second. Mrs. Dozier, seconded by Mrs. Fisher. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. We are adjourned.